Really fantastic to be here. Enjoyed the drinks at Sushi Samba last night. Nice to talk to many of you. So to briefly introduce myself, I'm Rikki Nokes, as you said, CEO and founder of Tandem Bank, which is one of the world's leading new digital banks, and the one that globally we think is taking the most advantage of AI. So obviously, subject here is AI, and is it the end of the world as we know it? Why am I sort of in any way qualified to speak to this very august audience? The answer is I've actually founded 5 tech startups, and they've all had a bit of a common theme. One is 4 out of 5 have been in financial services, and second of all, they're all trying to make the world a slightly better place. So one of the important dilemmas with AI is ethical, which is, are we using AI for good or evil? And at Tandem, we firmly believe it should be used for good and for the benefit of customers. So I want to talk a little bit about, for those of you in financial services or outside, even startups, thinking about what areas might we be able to get leverage. The really exciting thing is there's a lot of technologies converging at the moment. AI's been around since the 80s. A lot of these different technologies have been maturing, but we've got to a point where not only is there an absolutely massive quantum of data, but we have the cloud-based processing capacity to actually look at it, and with AI algorithms, we can start to intelligently analyze that data. So what drives competitive advantage in financial services? So here are some of the areas where you can think about applying AI. So if you're thinking about a startup, and if you're trying to figure out which of these areas you might focus on, think about what are the primary drivers in the banking business model. I mean, ultimately, banks are risk management businesses. A lot of it's about credit. Can we choose the right people to lend to? Contrary to some of the models that are going out there right now in digital banking, the primary job of a bank is actually taking money from one guy and lending it to someone else and underwriting the risk in the middle. And so this is really, really critical in building a fantastic financial services institution. Fraud monitoring is another area. So if you're building a startup, you want to think about where's the cash? Where can I actually go that's going to generate monetary benefit very, very quickly for the companies that I demonstrate it? Fraud monitoring. Now, sadly, unfortunately, as Tandem, I can't be your client, but we've got a wonderful guy called Noam Zagerson over here who we've just hired, who's our chief data officer, who's building all this for us in-house. So you'll have to approach some of the other bankers here in the audience to sell your wares. Why is banking so fantastic for AI and data? There is so much data in financial services. I mean, here we've got a few of the numbers. We've only been around operating for 18, 19 months. We've already got an enormous amount of data. One of the really interesting stories was when we kicked off last year, we built all these fabulous machine learning and deep learning algorithms, but we had about 10 million transaction data points to work with, and we were finding we just got rubbish. Unfortunately, then we went and bought this company, Parity, over here, which had about 50 million transactions, and actually suddenly all of our algos started to work better. So the challenge with AI is, if you've got 500 loans to make, it's not going to be a lot of use to you, 500 data points. When you get up into the millions, you can really start to generate the levels at which humans stop understanding the correlations, the machines start to understand the correlations. And one of the, obviously, key outputs here is credit. We are much smarter than the next guys in terms of how we assess credit. I'm not going to tell you too much about that today because I understand there are a lot of bankers in the audience, so we'll skip quickly on to the next slide. So what are the drivers behind this digital banking thing, you may be asking? So the facts are that there's been a real crop of new digital banks out there. Revolut has a Eastern European banking license, probably the least bank of these guys. But Monzo and Starling and Tandem are all registered banks in the UK. N26 is a registered bank in Germany. For those who haven't noticed, going on for sort of 15% of the UK population has tried one of our platforms, and that's really moved from about 5% at the beginning of last year and about 0.1 the year before. So there's been an absolutely massive takeoff in adoption of these businesses. But the primary driver for a lot of these guys, and this red circle, is what I'd call human-centered design. For those of us who don't know what I'm talking about, that's sort of the Uberization of banking, making it easier to use, actually looking at customer problems rather than doing what mostly banks look at, which is What are the problems with my balance sheet? What are the problems with my regulator? And how can I fuck the customer to serve those problems? The other two big things that are happening in the UK, open banking, we're at a pretty auspicious day today because it's the 12th of September. On the 14th of September, on Friday, every single bank in the UK is going to be forced to open every single bit of customer data to any fintech that gets an AISP license. It's pretty fucking exciting. And we're one of the few people taking advantage of it. Yolt is an ING project where they're looking at creating a veneer bank, by which I mean they're just going to suck in data and sit over the top of the existing banking rails. There's actually a very exciting startup, which I'll put a plug in as well, started by an Israeli entrepreneur who I really admire, Shahar Bialik, who started Curve, that's also looking at this area. They're less open banking focused, but sitting on top of cards. But obviously, the cloud computing and AI arena is pretty empty. And you know, we know that a lot of people, and Sky mentioned it before, are using AI in their customer service centers. Indeed, some of these guys down the bottom are as well. But Oak North is really the only one of the new neobanks in the UK, and it's one of them. It's actually the most valuable that is using it in its credit algos and using it in sort of the core processes of the bank. Because ultimately, customer service, great thing to do actually if you're a startup because it's agnostic. It could work across financial services and lots of other things, but it's a very minor lever in terms of the cost base of a bank. Customer service isn't what drives the profitability of a bank at the end of the day. But it's really these three big trends coming together that have created the conditions for these neobanks, and in particular for Tandem to win. So thank you very much, guys. Very, very good to talk to you today. I'll be around for the next break or so, so if anybody wants to come and have a chat, you're more than welcome. Thanks very much.